Hey everybody, it's Casey, and you're listening to the Wall to Wall Country Show. As usual, we've had an awesome show so far today, but it's even going to get that much better. I am so excited to have this girl back on the show. We spoke to her early on, almost early in her real career. She was still kind of fairly new on the scene. She's actually still fairly new on the scene, but she's been making a hell of a splash. Been called a powerhouse vocalist and multi-instrumentalist. This girl has commercial music out there. She's been to the White House. She's spoken to Oprah Winfrey, and she's been on The Voice, up and down travels with that as well, being on Team Blake and all that. We're going to talk about some of this stuff. I am telling you, man, this girl is on fire. You want to keep an eye on her because she's definitely making a huge splash in the music industry. So honored to have on board Miss Natalie Stovall. Welcome back to the show, Natalie.
Well, thank you. It has been. It's been a little while since I've talked to you.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, but oh my God, it must feel like it flew by for you because you have been one busy chick.
That is a very good way to describe it. It is so funny when I think about that, how 2005, that sounds crazy because it's been so long, but at the same time, yeah, we've been pretty solid out on the road because that's right about when I was starting to kind of get my legs under me on the road. And, and it didn't take long. It was by about 2007 that we were playing, I think 2007 we were up to over 150 shows a year. And then by 2008 to 2010, we were doing about 200 shows a year.
Wow.
And so, yes, it's safe to say that time definitely flew by because, every day was a different place, a different town, a different stage. And that's the life I love. So, I'm so happy that that's the way it's gone, but it is kind of crazy where time is so fluid where it seems like a lifetime ago and at the same time it seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah. And it does that too. It's sometimes I feel like you wait and you wait and you wait for something and you're like kind of consumed by waiting for it. And then it happens and next thing you know, it's 3 months later and I'm like, wow, that's happened. It's done. I'm already on to something else. It's like, what the heck? I remember waiting for it, and now it's already over.
I know. That's how and you said it and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but that's how I felt most recently about The Voice because I had to keep that a secret for so long.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for so long to be able to tell people about it. And then now it's crazy because they're already into the next season.
Yeah.
And so they just whip those things out. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to touch base on that in just a little bit because that was kind of a roller coaster ride for you. And, kind of like the ups and downs. And just in case people aren't, a fan of the show or watch the show or whatever, we'll get into that in just a little bit because I think that's an interesting part of your journey as well. But let's back up just a little bit, Natalie. For people who may not have as much background as I do about you since we've talked before and stuff, why don't you give us a quick synopsis, a quick little story about, how you hailed from Tennessee and you are getting into this where you're traveling and over 200 shows a year. Give us a quick description of how all that happened for you.
Well, I started playing fiddle when I was 4 and started doing commercials when I was 6. And, I always wanted to be in the entertainment industry in some form. I knew that, basically coming out of the womb. And so when I was 10, I auditioned for a show called the Opryland Kids Club, which we used to have a theme park in Nashville called Opryland. And it was kind of like a little Mickey Mouse Club show, but it was a live show daily out at the theme park. And so I got cast in that, that was a pivotal point for me because it put me on stage every single day of my life. So from ages 10 to 14, that happened. And then I ended up going to college at Berklee College of Music in Boston and studied vocal performance and really got my legs under me with putting a band together. And I actually formed a band up there, and they would come down and live in my parents' house during the summertime, and I would book us all around Nashville. And that was kind of my first taste at booking my own shows and touring and getting that side of things going. And so then after college, I moved back down to Nashville. My now husband and drummer, and there was nothing romantic at the time, but at the time he moved down to Nashville with me, and we started in the college world, that was really how I got my start on the road. Was I started playing for colleges and universities and campuses all around the U.S., and it didn't take long for it to go from, a few shows a year to over 200. And that's also kind of what got me into the military world and all of that. And, I just kind of rolled all of that into eventually I started getting noticed in Nashville, and I signed a record deal and released a song to country radio. And then the record deal people kind of dissolved and that all fell through. But then, there's literally nothing in this world that will stop me from making music and creating music and touring and releasing it out to the world. And so now I'm back to being an independent artist. But the fun thing about that is that I already know how to do that. And so that's where I am right now. And it's kind of cool too in this world where, being an independent artist before the world of digital music, of iTunes and Spotify and YouTube and social media, was a little harder in some ways because you almost had to have a record deal for people to discover you.
Right.
And now that's not the case. Now, if you put out great music, people will find it. And it's just amazing the way that the world of music has changed, even in this time span that I've been seriously pursuing it. It's crazy. But so I'm still putting out music, and there's been a lot of ups and downs along the way, but it's really up right now. So I'm a happy girl.
Well, and I don't think that's anything that is out of the norm. I think the music industry is just that. You're going to find yourself where everything's going okay, and then you're back down, and then you got to kind of climb back out of that. And I think that's one of the things that tends to throw some really good artists to the wayside, unfortunately, because they do get discouraged or whatever, or they don't have the money or they don't have the backing, and they may be very, very talented people, but it's a tough industry, and there's a million of yous out there trying to do the same damn thing. You know what I mean?
There really is, and you're right. It's a lot of it is about being able to just stick in there and not let it break your heart too hard. Because, with the week that my record label decided that they didn't want a music business anymore, that really didn't have anything to do with us or my band or my music or even the other artists on the label. There were other very successful artists on the label. But the week that happened, we were headed out to open for Little Big Town. And that was such an encouraging moment for me because they looked at me. I remember Karen Fairchild looking at me and going, Natalie, that we've had this exact same thing happen to us 4 times where we were signed to a record deal and for some reason the label dissolved or our deal dissolved or something happened. And so they're now on their 4th record deal and look at what's happened with them. Yeah. Now they're superstars that we all look up to. And so, it is about, and sometimes you don't know why it takes longer for some people, and some people hit and get lucky or just have the right song or whatever right away. But, success is really, it can almost be in the eye of the beholder too, because as much as, I definitely have my eye on where I want to be and where I want to go, and I'm not there yet, but I have been so unbelievably successful in my career and continue to get to play music daily for a living. And that's something that a lot of people can't say. I haven't had to go back since I quit doing any sort of extra day jobs, which was probably about the last time I talked to you. I was still probably dressing up as, Cinderella for birthday parties back then.
Yeah, you were.
On top of playing music. Yeah. But that was, you had to kind of hustle and figure out any way you could to make a living. Sure. And now I don't have to do that. Now I make my living playing music, and it's still a hustle, but Beyonce says it's a hustle. So yeah. So then there's perspective in that way too.
Well, and there's always going to be that other person just to your right, who wants your spot. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
And that's what's going to keep people like you on your game. You can't just sit back. And I think the artists that do that think, oh, well, I've made it this far, and this is, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to do this, or I don't care to do that anymore, or whatever. They're the ones that are all of a sudden are going to find themselves in trouble because there's that person who's incredibly hungry just sitting next to you that you haven't maybe noticed, but they're creeping up on you. And if you give them the chance, they're going to take it, you know?
Right. There's always the people out there that are legitimately more talented and hungrier than you are, you know? And so you have to realize that and know that you have to keep working just as hard if this really truly is what you want. And the thing is that you can make that statement about just about any career that it is that you want. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're in the corporate world or you're in the music world or you're out in LA acting or, you know, I mean, or even if you're starting out at McDonald's and you want that manager position, but you start out at the cash register, you know, I mean, it's like there's always that kind of scenario. And so if you really want something, you just got to work your butt off and know that you're really good at what you do and get there.
Oh, I think those are good words of advice coming from someone of your stature. You know, you've got words attached to you which don't come easy. Things like powerhouse vocalist and phenomenal fiddle player and all those things. You know, you didn't get all that just by sleeping in every morning. You worked hard. You know, I'm sure that
is very true.
I think we had this conversation. My father gave me a fiddle, and it was something that he handed down to me, and I was like, oh, great, I play guitar. How hard could it be? And I'm like, geez, Louise, Batman. Every time I try, it sounds like I'm killing a cat. So... So
amazing.
I'm pretty amazed at people, you know, like you and Charlie Daniels who can make that thing sound amazing. And it, like I said, it didn't come easy, I'm sure. I mean, you had to practice and practice and practice and keep practicing. And even when you thought you were pretty good, you still have to keep practicing and playing. And
and I hated practicing as a kid. And it was so much torture. I mean, it's one of those things, it's kind of like running to me. It's like I love doing it. I actually do love doing it, but the getting started is always the hardest part.
Yeah.
And so my mom would encourage me by either there would be a chocolate reward at the end of the practice session because I've always loved chocolate, even, you know, as a 3-year-old. And then she would also take me to the park because she knew that if I would play in public and if people would stop and listen, I would play all day long. I would practice the same song over and over again if anybody, one person would listen to me. And so I think it became very apparent early on that it was like, well, you put this girl on stage and she comes to life. You know, so I always had that kind of encouragement of like, okay, well, you may not enjoy the work part of this. I mean, because as a kid, you can't comprehend. When you're 4, and even when you're 10, it's like, oh, I have to sit and practice for 2 hours every day. But you do if you want to get to the place where you sound natural playing an instrument, you know, especially something like the violin or fiddle, because it's just, it takes a long time to get over the hump on that instrument. Once you get over the hump, it's a lot easier. But the beginning stages of that one, they're not like the beginning stages of guitar where you can learn a couple chords or even drums. It's like you can just bang away at them and you sound fantastic, even if you're terrible, you know. But the fiddle, if you pull that bow across the strings and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to clear the room immediately.
Yeah. My husband's walked out. He's like, you're going to go out to the garage or I'm going to Walmart. Because it sounds like you're killing something back there. So one
of my big brothers used to just slam the door somewhere in the house. It didn't even matter if he was close to me, but it was just to let me know, like, stop it. I don't like that. But I would have to keep practicing. So he'd have to study with cat scratches downstairs. So it was fine.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of your music, let's jump ahead now a little bit. You've had some success with some music out there already and got some songs out there and people have attached themselves to it. And, you know, the Natalie Stovall name is getting out there some more. And I know you're very excited about some brand new music that you have out and excited to present it to your fans. Let's talk about your latest single that's out there.
Yeah, so Wine and Whiskey, Wine or Whiskey, actually, it's a choice, is the name of the single that we just put out. And it was really fun because I had I had heard that song last year, and this was one that I didn't write, but just kind of stopped me in my tracks when I heard it. And that doesn't happen very often, where you hear a song that you wish that you'd written and you feel like is a part of you, and you feel like it's a part of your story and the story that you want to tell as an artist. And that one especially was kind of describing the feelings that I was having at the moment, because even though it sounds like it's about a relationship, to me, in that moment, it was that kind of, it's a song that's about being a little bit frozen in time and exploring that moment when you know your life is about to change. You know something big is about to happen, but you don't know if it's going to be for the better or for the worse. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough spot to be in, whether it's career or relationship or health reasons. You know, they're kind of all over the place. But I will say that when you're on a reality show and you're standing up on the stage and you're waiting for them to make a decision, if you think it takes a long time at home with the commercial break when they go, we'll come right back and tell you, it's an eternity up on that stage. And even before I went out to LA to do The Voice, I was still kind of in that moment where I was like, am I really going to go do this thing? Because this could really change my life, but it also might not. Mm-hmm. You know, it might just be another chapter. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I had no idea what was going to happen. And so I heard this song as I was making that decision. Okay. So then we went ahead and I started recording music as if nothing else in my life was going on, as if I was just kind of normal Natalie and putting out music and the whole thing. But then I had to put everything on hold because of leaving and going out to LA. And so when I came back and was able to kind of get back to myself, you know, at midnight on the night that I was allowed to start releasing music again, because there was about a 6-month period where I wasn't allowed to release music or talk about my own music or anything like that because of the show. At midnight on the night that I was allowed to release music again, I put out Wine or Whiskey. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those feelings that was just so great, because as much as, you know, I was kind of thinking maybe this my life was going to change my life, really it's about me doing it, you know, and putting out music again on my own. It felt like a new venture, even though I've done that for so long. Mm-hmm. And so it was so cool because, you know, this song was written by Lori McKenna, Jimmy Westbrook from Little Big Town, and then Andrew Dorff. And Andrew is a guy that, you know, we lost him suddenly a little over a year ago. But the first time I ever wrote with Lori McKenna, Andrew asked if he could crash our write. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those crazy, weird pieces where it's like, I'm a huge fan of Little Big Town. I've already talked about them once. and so the fact that Jimmy Westbrook had written that song, and then Lori McKenna, one of my favorite writers of all time, and then Andrew, you know, there were all these cool little pieces that just made it even more personal to me and made it feel like it was a part of my own life. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, as I had recorded it and I went out to LA, it was so crazy because they were asking me to sing a Little Big Town song this one day on the show, and they had me scheduled to go start rehearsing. And at the same time, Jimmy Westbrook from Little Big Town came into the studio in Nashville and put background vocals on the song that I had recorded that was going to put out. And so it was, you know, I mean, it's all these weird little pieces of magic that started happening around the song and made me feel like, oh my goodness, this song is taking on a life of its own. And so putting it out has been an incredible feeling. I'm so honored that not only did Jimmy write the song, but he was willing to come and put his voice on it, which just took it to the next level. And then it's kind of a song that sounds a little different for me, which I wanted. You know, it sounds very different from a lot of the stuff that I did with The Drive. And so it was nice to get to kind of start to take another step into the next evolution of what I'm doing and what my music sounds like. So it's been a really beautiful just time of releasing music and getting to see the way that people react to it. And I've played it a few times on the Grand Ole Opry and, you know, gotten to start playing it out on the road. And it's it feels good to be back. Even though I only left for like 6 months and nobody even realized I left because that was all a secret. But it feels good because it feels like I kind of hit the restart button for myself.
And you got a great video out for that too. I mean, I watched the video and it's like, and you're on the one hand, it's like when you're seeing it, you're honestly thinking that she's pulling up to somebody's house and how's that conversation going to go? You know, but there's really no guy in there at all. It could be about anything. It could, like you said, it could be about pulling into her own home or just stopping at the end of a day and considering your options of which way is a decision that you need to make. So I think that's interesting. Yeah. People could see, you know, I think most people may look at it and go, oh, it's about a relationship. But then someone in your position might go, this is exactly what I'm going through. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to take whichever direction it goes.
Right. Take a couple shots of whiskey because of the decision. But, you know, I'm going to be okay. Or maybe I'm just going to open a nice bottle of wine and just sip on it for a little bit. You never know.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
That's. I appreciate that about the video because it was fun to leave it a little open-ended like that because, you know, I agree with you. I think most of the time, and even for me, it's like I remember that time where you you wanted the relationship to go one way, but your decision didn't necessarily end the relationship. So It wasn't your decision necessarily. So it describes a lot of different but I've never heard a song or even thought to write a song that explores that specific moment, which is one of the reasons that I think I fell so deeply in love with it immediately because I was like, man, I've never really explored this specific moment in time in my own writing. So it was cool.
Well, this is awesome. So listen, if you can hang in there, what I'd like to do is take a quick break and come back and play Wine or Whiskey, just in case people haven't heard it, but kind of give it a little airplay there. Now that people know the backstory of it, maybe they can see it involving into not maybe a relationship thing, but into other avenues. So if you can hang in there for a couple minutes, I'm going to go ahead and play your tune after the break. Can you hang in there a minute, Nat?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. Well, we're going to be back with more Natalie Stovall. We're going to touch a little bit more on her experience with The Voice and also connectivity on how you can find her, reach out to her, get in touch with her, talk to her about her music and things along that line. So don't go anywhere. More with the amazing, the powerhouse, the phenomenal, and the down home girl, Miss Natalie Stovall. We'll be back with her and some of her music in just a minute. Be listening for Wine or Whiskey. And back there, you heard it, the Wine or Whiskey song, Natalie Stovall's brand new single that's out there. If you get the opportunity, you really need to check out the video for it. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to connect to it, on the real level of, it might be a relationship thing, but just a life decisioning kind of aspect of it, and I think it's really neat. I love the video. I love how you did it. You're beautiful in it. Everything about it is awesome. And I think you did an amazing job with that, Natalie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It feels good when you work really hard on something like that and it actually turns out in a way that you're very proud of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it is. I think people need to check it out. So make sure you go to Natalie's website, which is nataliestovall.com. If you're unsure of her last name, it's STOVALL.com. And you'll get some more information about Natalie and what she's doing and all that kind of stuff. But I just do want to touch base on your experience with The Voice just a little bit. It was kind of a roller coaster ride for you. I'm just curious, are you looking at that as just something you did, or is that something that you took some stuff from? Was Blake a good supporter of you? I mean, I realized that was kind of like you were there and then you weren't, then you were, then you weren't, kind of like a back and forth thing. Tell us your explanation of the experience through The Voice of season 13, which was just last year.
Well, I am very, very glad that I did it. It was absolutely a roller coaster. It was an emotional roller coaster. But it was an experience that I got a lot from it that I didn't expect. And then I also kind of, in a lot of ways, it was almost exactly what I expected, which was weird. But Blake is he really is just as down to earth as he seems on the show. I mean, he's just the greatest. Mm-hmm. And he actually remembered me, which was crazy because we've only met a couple of times. And so I I genuinely did not think he'd remember me, but he started talking about details of one of the nights that we had met. Just as we were talking, he was like, saying, "Oh, wait, wasn't Martina standing right next to you when we met?" And I was going, "Wait a minute, no, you actually do remember that, because you can't make up that kind of detail."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was so crazy because, I started that process last year in January.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went and auditioned, and the funny thing is they've called almost every season and asked for me to come audition to be on the show. And every season it's not been something that was even in the realm of being able to work in my schedule. Mm-hmm. And this year it was still a tough decision because I had to cancel so many shows, and I do not take that lightly. But there were a lot of changes going on just on, kind of within the band and with some of the shows and some of the things that we were doing and musically, that it kind of made sense. I can't really explain why.
That's okay.
But just in a lot of ways, it was one of those things that, as I talked to my band about it, and we made the decision together, we all felt like, what, this is a really good time to do this. It's for some reason, something was pulling and tugging on me and saying, you need to go do this. Mm-hmm. And I try not to fight that kind of intuition, because you never know what that can mean. And so I had auditioned in January. I went out there for callbacks in March, and then I was there sequestered for an entire month in June before the blind auditions. And that's something that's crazy, is that you're there for a whole month, not allowed to have visitors, not allowed to talk about it. Nobody can know what you're doing. And you're there for an entire month before you even do the blind auditions. And that's all just rehearsals and working with a vocal coach, not with the actual, celebrity coaches, but vocal coaches. You're doing styling, you're doing interviews after interviews after interviews. I mean, it's an intensive process. But then, after I made it through the blinds and I was on Team Blake, and it was so cool. And then, it was a little up and down after that because of the way that the show worked. They had, I ended up being Blake's comeback. So even when I lost my battle, he brought me back, and I went out to LA and competed some more. And it was really cool because it was one of those things where I already knew, but really figured out that I do not enjoy music as a competition. Right. I don't think it's a competition, and that's not fun, but I am a very competitive person, which is why I got really into it and was like, okay, I can do this. I can sing my face off, but I think that's also one of the reasons that something like Wine or Whiskey was calling to me so hard, because that's not a song that it's not about being able to sing the highest note or the biggest note or the longest note. It's just about the way it makes you feel. And so I got to go in and I got to really work on my voice. That was something I haven't done really since college, which was work on the technical aspects. And I also get kind of nerdy and really into that kind of thing, because I was not born a naturally gifted singer. I worked really, really hard on technique in order to get my voice to where it is now. So I really got back into that and loved working with my vocal coach out there. That was so cool. And the fun side of it, the glamorous side with the styling and the hair and makeup and all that was super fun. They did not like my big hair. They did not want me to have big hair on the show. And some of that's for the cameras, that they have to kind of make sure there's no flyaways. And when you have naturally curly hair like me, all it is flyaways. So that was really funny, because I would walk into the makeup room every time and they'd be like, honey, we're going to have to tame this hair down. And I'd be like, I am from Tennessee. You make it bigger. But it was fun, because I knew going in I'd have to let go, and that it wouldn't be necessarily, I wouldn't have the control of it, that I would have to be able to let it go some in order to enjoy the experience. Right. And so I did, and I met some incredible people out there, and it was so funny how many of us are rooted and based in Nashville, and so I have a lot of new friends that I didn't even know before I went out there, and then we all realized how many mutual friends we have and how many connections we have in this town together with each other. So it was kind of like an adult summer camp for me. I mean, I went out and I didn't have any of my family or friends that I already knew with me. I had to go out and be back into a world that, you know, of new people and new faces. But I learned so much, and I spent a lot of time even just learning about myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you go on the road for 10 years. Sometimes you don't stop.
Right.
Sometimes you don't really stop and kind of, you know, I did a lot of just kind of taking that daily devotion time and,
mm-hmm.
and going and doing yoga and laying out at the pool. And I've never been tanner than I was when I was out there, because I've never been in a place where it was sunny and 75 every day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was so cool. But it was a lovely experience. I'm glad that I'm back to my own life, mm-hmm. Because I do love the life that I've built, and I've worked very hard at surrounding myself with people that I love and creating a career for myself that I love. And so it is good to be back to that, but it was nice to take a break. So, yeah.
Well,
cool.
You know, everybody needs a reset every once in a while. And I'm sure it didn't, you know, you getting on national television, putting your name splashing on national, I'm sure that didn't hurt. I'm sure that didn't hurt either.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, of course, I wanted to go all the way to the end, and I wanted to be in those lives, and that would have been so fun. But at the same time, it's you know, it's a television show, and that's not necessarily what it's about. I mean, right. I got a lot of momentum, and the thing that surprised me the most was just the way that people, whether they're fans or people who maybe have just seen me once or twice before somewhere out on the road, you know, maybe in 2005, you know,
yep.
They rallied around me. I mean, people, it was like it just reminded people that, oh, hey, I'm over here. Cool. I'm doing this thing. People that may not have seen me in a long time. And it got me back in front of people. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things where I knew I'd get new fans and that I'd be in front of new people. I mean, there's no way not to be on a national TV show like that. But the thing that was the most just amazing to me was the way that my own fans rallied around me and kind of just circled me in love and just lifted me up through the whole experience.
That's awesome.
And that was really beautiful to see.
Wow, that's totally awesome. And again, you know, that helps you get that that reset, and then when you come back, you know, you're ready, and there's a time I believe there's a time and a place for everything. And, you know, you shape your own destiny and stuff, and the time that you took away from what you were doing and did something different, and now you're back and you're a powerhouse. You know, you're doing this stuff. Wine or whiskey is a perfect example of that. You didn't come back in a small way. You came back with an amazing single that you have out there, the video that goes with it. And you've got a couple other tunes too, and you're talking about more music, and you're talking about touring. When I let you go, which I will soon, I don't want to hold you too much longer, but let's talk about two more tunes yet. One I want to play, When We Say Goodbye, another new one that you have out there. And then we're going to end the show with another one of your songs to get people geared up and excited about this new stuff that you've got coming out. All brand new. It's all shiny and it's pretty and it's sparkly. And, you know, we want to get people jacked up for it. So tell us a little bit about a song that you want to end the interview with here. We've got a couple of choices. Which one would you like?
Well, I think we need to end it on the song that kind of started opening all the doors for me. I mean, Baby Come On With It was my first single, and so far my only single officially to country radio. And so it was so cool because when I was signed at Hit Shop, that was the song that we sent out. And I mean, it broke the top 40, and it was my first big music video on CMT. And, you know, and the fun thing is, even with that song, the music video, we really just took our own live footage from years and years of touring and put that together. And then we did go record some pieces for the video, but most of that music video is just legit the band on the road and different shows throughout the years. And it's been fun to actually see people respond to that and say, wait, that was that show that you did at our college, you know, and would point out the different times, or we were at that show at Spring Break in Spinnaker Beach Club down in Panama City. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of different shows in there. And so Baby Come On With It really is just such a fun song, and it's one of those that just I will always have such a special place in my heart for that song because it's the song that really started it all for us.
Nice. Well, we're going to play that one on our goodbyes, and then there's one more tune that we're going to play at the end of the show. This whole show gets recorded and played back on Sunday, and all my listeners know that. And sometimes they can't because it's in the afternoon, they don't always get to listen. So they like to listen on Sunday because they don't want to miss the interview or some of the great music. What song do you want me to close out the show with today then, Natalie?
So I get to choose. That's amazing. I think we should do Mason Jar, because that's another song that was the song that I released, right after the label shut down, but it was kind of my own little okay, well, I'm back to just doing it on my own, so this is how we're going to do it,
Nice.
And so Mason Jar, that was another one that we got so much love and support from CMT and GAC, and then out on the road, and so many stations played it, and so many people like you played it for us that, it wasn't one of those, and this is kind of industry speak, because it doesn't really matter to people whether you hear it on the radio or not, but, or what type of station it is, but it didn't officially go out, in the quote way that official country music goes to country radio, but so many people played it for us. And it got out there, and it was kind of a triumphant moment for me, because I realized, you know what? It doesn't matter what papers are signed or what's going on. We're going to make this thing happen for ourselves. Nice. And so that was another fun celebration song.
All right. Well, we're going to close out the show with Mason Jar, but you can be listening for Baby Come On With It in just a minute. Before I cut you loose, Natalie, I know you're a busy girl, but real quick, connectivity, you on the social medias. How can people reach out to you? How can they find out what's going on with your amazing career they have going on now?
Well, I am online as @Natalie Stovall. So if you go to Twitter, if you go to Instagram, which is my personal favorite, if you go to Facebook, it's all @Natalie Stovall. NatalieStovall.com is my website. And, of course, I'm on Spotify, and they've been giving me a lot of love on the playlist lately. And so Spotify, iTunes, you can kind of any streaming service that you use, whether you're an Amazon person or, I'm on all of the different platforms.
Okay.
And so, just look for Natalie Stovall.
All right. So they can they reach out to you through your Twitter and your Facebook and your Instagram and give you some feedback? Okay.
Absolutely. I'm very involved in commenting back, and I try to get to everybody. And Instagram, it's funny because people make fun of me because Instagram is my favorite, but I've always been a camera-heavy person, and I love sharing my life through pictures.
Good.
But people comment a lot on there, and we have conversations back and forth. And, and I've got new music coming out at the end of March, actually. And so That's going to be another song that we're going to release that's going to be really, really fun to get. We're just going to keep this train rolling, and there's a lot of new music that is already recorded and music that I'm working on currently in the studio. So we're going to keep releasing songs, and I want to know what people think and get feedback, because that's where it's at. So
awesome. All right. So your fans know that they can reach out and connect with you on those levels, especially if about one of your songs and how it's touched them or how they feel it relates to their life, and that's what it's all about. And that's without your fans you don't really have anything, and so it's all about them and helping you get to where you need to be. Well, Natalie, you've been a sweetheart and a dream. Once again, looking forward to getting some of these other tunes out there for you. And know that if you ever are traveling up to Pennsylvania, the doors to Penn's Peak Radio are always open. Venue is here. Anytime you're here, we're 10 steps from backstage. So we'd love to see you up here in the Poconos.
Yes, well, we would love to come see you guys, because Pennsylvania has been very good to us over the years. That's one of the states that I think we've played more college campuses in the state of Pennsylvania than any other state in the country. So it's a place that's always shown us a lot of love, and we want to give it back.
Well, we'd love to see you here at the Penn's Peak venue as well someday. So, like I said, the doors to Penn's Peak Radio are always right here, and they're always open for you. But even not, you got some new and exciting things going on, please reach out to me, and we'll get you back on the air and maybe a couple of years and figure out what you're up to then. Love to keep in touch.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, so thank you. Big thanks to Miss Natalie Stovall. We're going to say goodbye to her, but be listening for her next song coming up right now. It's called Baby Come On With It. And then listen for Mason Jars at the end of the show. Thanks, Natalie. You have an awesome day, my girl.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.